it's Kristen Graziano, and I'm bringing you a market update. We're here in about mid-July, and actually we're getting into late July, but the market is shifting a little bit. But before anybody freaks out, if you're a seller saying, oh my gosh, prices are coming, here it comes, or if you're a homeowner thinking prices are going to crash, let me just share some data with you. I feel like we have been in a market where we are like running on a treadmill, and we're like cruising along, and then we increase the speed and we increase the speed and we increase the speed, and all of a sudden we're like going super fast on this treadmill. And then we knock it down a notch or two and we're still going really fast, but it feels slower. So that's a great analogy for what's happening with our market right now. The market is still a frenzy, and it's still a very hot market, but there are some things that are starting to shift a little bit. We are starting to see homes, they're not selling quite as quickly, but we're talking like they might take one extra day to sell than they have been. We're also noticing that listings are now getting maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 offers, but we are no longer seeing the 20, 30, 40. We had one recently with 60 offers. We're not seeing that right now. And part of that is sellers are pricing a little bit higher. And so we're seeing a little bit of resistance there. Our inventory, this is probably the number one reason why this is happening, but our inventory has been rising. But keep in mind, we have been at something like 23% of what our normal inventory is for this time of year. So the statistic of our inventory is calibrated against the time of year. So sometimes people say, well, seasonally, don't listings go up or down this time of year? That doesn't matter. It's actually adjusted for seasonality. So right now, we are seeing that our inventory's popped up maybe, 3%, which is not a lot. However, it is providing our market with some relief for buyers. There's a little bit more to pick from. It's not as much of a frenzy out there. And then one indicator that most of you know I follow the Cromford Market Index, and that is a leading indicator of where prices are likely headed and where our market is. So when the Cromford Market Index is at 100, that's considered balance. And we peaked out, I think it was in March, we peaked out at around 514. That's pure insanity, because when you're over 110, that's considered a strong seller's market. So right now, today, we're hovering right around 375 or 374, which is still a really strong seller's market. But what we're seeing is if we project out, there are certain areas where they're likely to get to balance within a certain time period if they continue on the trajectory downward that they're going. It is not anticipated, at least not anytime soon, that we're going to see prices drop. And I'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But when I'm talking about the market getting to balance, here's something where it's really important to know and talk to a professional who knows this data really well. Because if we take the whole market and we factor in the Cromford Market Index for the whole Phoenix area, then we're at, say, 374. However, each city varies. So if you take Anthem is projected with its downward trajectory, it's projected to be at balance. If it continues at that trajectory, it's projected it will be at balance in about 6.5 weeks. But if you hop over to Scottsdale, that's about 20 plus weeks. So it is very different from city to city. It even varies by zip code. And there's another indicator we look at for zip code to see where that point is. So I will throw in this is just my opinion. This is not anything that I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell you for a fact. I actually think that our trajectory of getting to balance is not going to just go down at the trajectory it's been going recently. I think we're seeing it go down a little bit, the Cromford Market Index, but I don't think personally that we are going to get to 100 or balance anytime soon. So a lot of things would have to happen for that to occur. However, I do think that prices are no longer going to continue rising like they have. But let me share this with you. I've got some data here that I want to share. So in 2014, our market was about balance. We were appreciating at about the rate of inflation. And that's what balance is considered, is when homes are appreciating at the rate of inflation. So then when you hop on over to 2015, between 2015 in 2019, we were in a seller's market. And that seller's market, when you look at that and you take the average appreciation over that time period from 2015 to 2019, we appreciated about 0.5% a month. That's a good seller's market. That's about 6% a year. And at that time, that was a bit over inflation. We know inflation is rising a little bit now, but for the last year, we have been appreciating at 3.1% per month. That's huge, and that is not sustainable. So we are finally getting to the point where I don't think we're going to continue to see 3.1% jumps every single month. Maybe we see it in a month period, but I don't think we're going to continue to see that as the ongoing appreciation rate. So it's like that, again, that treadmill, we're knocking it down a couple notches, but we're still going super fast. We're still burning a lot of calories. So we are starting to see that, we're still in a strong seller's market. We'll likely remain in a strong seller's market, but we're not probably going to see the insanity that we've seen. So a little bit more information that I wanted to share with you. And it's really good to listen to the percentages, but then look at the data behind it. So sometimes, and I'm sure you've all seen it, there's those news articles that grab you and then you're like, wait, what's going on? And it sounds very dramatic. But if you were to look at the data behind what's happening, it's very different. It's not nearly as dramatic. So our supply is up since February. Supply is up 46.6%. And that sounds like a huge increase in supply. However, we're still 20% under market-wide. Our supply is 20% less than it was 1 year ago in 2020. And to take that data a step further, 2020 had the lowest supply we've seen, I think, since they've been tracking, since Cromford's been tracking this, which is the last 21 years. So that just goes to show you, yes, did supply rise 46%? Sure it did. But when you're starting with a super low number, then it's very easy to have a high percentage increase. Another thing to look at is that price reductions are up valley-wide. They're up 143% over the last week. Or a week, or actually it's not over the last week, it's over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. But here's the thing, in a normal seller's market, again, appreciating more than the rate of inflation, in a normal seller's market, we see about 1,500 to 2,000 price reductions per week. So what we're seeing with this 143% increase, with 143% higher price reductions, we're only at 600 and change homes that are reducing their price. That's still significantly under what we expect to see in a seller's market. So looking at the data behind the numbers is really important, because for someone, if I were to write a news article right now and I were to say, supply is up 46%, price reductions are up 143%, it might sound like the market's really changing a lot. It's not. It's changing, but it's not. When you look at the numbers behind it, it's not that drastic. So hold off getting freaked out. We don't have anything bad going on here. In fact, I do think this is a really good thing. Buyers that we're working with, we've got buyers with low down payments. They're getting houses. We're getting, we've got clients, and we've seen other people who are getting offers accepted who probably didn't stand a chance 2 and 3 months ago. So that's a really good thing for the market when homeowners can own homes. We're still in a position where rents are significantly higher than it is to purchase a home right now. It just is. It's more expensive to rent than it is to own. And in my opinion, one of the very few reasons to not purchase a home is if you just don't have any money to pay for closing costs and down payment. But rents are still rising very strongly. The reason why rents are still rising strongly is that over the last 20 years, our population in the Phoenix area has grown by, I can tell you, 20%. In that same time period, our housing units have increased by 11%. So we still have a huge housing shortage. And as long as we have a housing shortage, simple supply and demand tells you we're going to see prices rise. So let me see if there's anything else I want to share with you guys. A lot of the new listings, the increased supply we have, are on properties under $800,000. That is great news for buyers. We're not seeing much of an increase in supply when you get over 800,000 and especially over $1 million to $1.5 million. When you get over that price point, we're not seeing very much in supply increase, and there is still a huge demand in those segments. So those areas are still very competitive. When you get under $800,000, that's where we're seeing a lot of the supply increase, and that's really good because a lot of buyers who are struggling to buy are in that price range. So I feel like that's great news for buyers. And then what else do we have? I think we covered most of it. So if you have questions, let us know. We can tell you exactly your area, where your home is, and what the market's doing in your specific area, and your specific zip code, your specific city. All of that is really important. Before we see prices drop, there are other things that happen first. We start to see seller concessions. So in the seller's market we saw between 2015 and 2019, approximately, give or take a little, 25% of transactions had seller concessions where the seller is helping the buyer with their closing costs. So fast forward now, lately, we're seeing about 3%. So about 3% of transactions have sellers helping buyers with closing costs. And that's a really, really low number. So before we see prices adjust, we're going to see things like seller concessions come back. We're going to see sellers are actually going to have to make repairs. I know, that's crazy. Lately, sellers are not having to make repairs, but that is coming back where sellers are going to have to make more repairs. There are other things that are going to happen that we as real estate professionals will see that people who don't do this for a living don't necessarily see what's going on behind the scenes. So I long before prices were to do anything as far as a downward movement, we're going to see a lot of other things happen. And truthfully, we would probably need to have a lot less buyers and a lot more supply on the market before we see anything change with prices. So sit tight. If you're somebody who's been thinking about buying, it's a perfect time to dive in. If you're thinking about selling, this is actually a really, really, really great time to sell. It is easier to sell right now than it likely will be in the next few months. As a seller, you're still in a position where you probably don't have to make many repairs. You probably still have a few offers, so you get to pick the best one that works for you. Whereas, and houses are still selling in about 7 days on market. So is the median number of days on market for what's going on in the MLS in the Phoenix area. So let me know if you have any questions. We're happy to answer any of your questions. I know this is a long one, but I don't want to say, oh, the market's shifting, because that sounds like something bad is happening. This is actually a really good thing, and it's not shifting for the worse. It's actually, in my opinion, shifting for in some really good ways, so that a lot of buyers can get back in there and buy, and sellers still have a good opportunity to sell and get a really good price for their house. So if you have any questions, let us know. Hope everyone's having a great day. We will talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.